Ladies and gentlemen, huge news that you've already heard. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I've been speaking about this for months. I have told you for months on this channel, ladies and gentlemen, in live streams and in uploads, that this would take place. Supreme Court sides with Trump administration on nationwide injunctions in birthright citizenship case. This is absolutely huge for a number of reasons. You will hear some legal analysis in a second. But hit subscribe. I took a couple of days off, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. We'll have a live stream tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. So be here tonight for the live stream at 9 p.m. We'll celebrate President Trump's monumental victory. Number one, he's the antithesis of a despot, Trump. When people say he's a despot, authoritarian, totalitarian, they don't know the meanings of those words and they have zero knowledge of history. Generally speaking, despots and authoritarians don't have a Supreme Court or the Supreme Court backing them almost always. President Trump has continually received favorable rulings from the Supreme Court because oftentimes Democrats or people trying to stop Trump engage in unconstitutional practices. In this case, Democrats could easily, whether they want to rein in ICE or they want to keep undocumented immigrants who potentially committed crimes in the country, Democrats tomorrow can push legislation in Congress. They might get the House in 1 year in 26. Okay, so all they need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is push legislation to stop President Trump. They know it's not popular nationwide. So you hear a lot of Democrats, a lot of pundits talk about ICE raids, and they talk about how, undocumented immigrants are being unfairly treated. The issue is that President Trump, for example, is deporting individuals who committed crimes and don't have citizenship. If Democrats, for example, want to keep these individuals in the country, they can push legislation in the House or the Senate. If Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or Chuck Schumer or Pelosi or anyone want to keep people within the country that potentially committed, terrible crimes or heinous crimes, they can write legislation. Of course they won't do that because it's not popular, obviously, nationwide. So they go through nationwide injunctions, which, by the way, one liberal Supreme Court justice was against, AOC was against, and Democratic senators were against, so they were all against nationwide injunctions when Biden was in office. In fact, AOC stated that Biden shouldn't listen, should ignore a nationwide injunction against what Democrats wanted during Biden's administration. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. This is huge. Check this out. I've been talking about this for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. If you've watched this channel, you know that I have predicted this. And you just wait until the Supreme Court overturns the guilty verdict, the absurd guilty verdict in New York. That's next. But watch this.
Got it. Want to bring Jonathan Turley back in. Shannon, thank you. So, Jonathan, it sounds like this is kind of what you were mentioning earlier. 6-3 decision granting a partial stay on these nationwide injunctions unless there's a broader impact. Kind of decipher that for us.
Well, I've only started to read the opinion, but what I've seen does look like a victory for the Trump administration. Justice Barrett is saying that the only way for justices to exercise this type of universal injunction in some of these cases is equitable relief, but she does not find evidence that that type of relief was granted to these judges. So they indicate that the administration is likely to prevail on this issue. All of that is going to be awfully good news for this administration. They have been really hit with these sort of Lilliputian attacks. There are all these individual district judges effectively freezing federal policy and programs across the country. So it does appear to be a victory. It may be a bit more nuanced, but so far it looks like a good day for the Trump administration.
Andy, a question for you. Again, here are my dumb questions. This is not on the merits of birthright citizenship, then, it looks like, but am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I think this really, we never get to the merits because of the injunction issue, and it seemed to me that what made this case very interesting to people at the beginning was the birthright citizenship question and the very important question of whether that's compelled by the 14th Amendment or not. As the case was litigated, it really became this other thing, which was about these nationwide injunctions, which, for the reasons that Jonathan just mentioned, are the thing that has plagued the Trump administration across the board in its second term.
Andy, Jonathan, stand by. I want to bring in Shannon Bream once again. Shannon, I understand you're getting more details on the dissent in this case. Fill us in.
What makes Zaxby's
Yeah, I always think it's helpful to turn there because you can get a sense of exactly what they're pushing back against with all these different concurrences. And what they said is, because remember, again, this comes to us in the vehicle of the birthright citizenship case. And the questions at oral arguments were, okay, what if district judges decide differently and they aren't able to give an order for the entire country? Would a child be born in New Mexico have a different right than one in New Jersey, depending on how those judges have ruled in different places? Justice Sotomayor, writing for the
So Elena Kagan was against nationwide injunctions during Biden's administration. We talked about that on this channel. Ron Wyden, AOC, they were all against nationwide injunctions. The problem with what the Democratic Party has done is that they can't legislate. So you're going to hear President Trump in a second take a victory lap, and he should. They can't, Democrats cannot legislate. They're not popular nationwide. They lost miserably. They don't have anyone for 2028. J.D. Vance is certainly going to win. If it's not J.D. Vance, it'll be another Republican, Trump Republican. Okay. And so the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld years, those are the never Trumpers have zero political influence in American life. Democrats have some influence, but their influence is limited and decreasing daily. Trust in media is at an all-time low. And there's a reason for that, because they've lied about Trump being a Kremlin operative, that he's an authoritarian. They've twisted and distorted his words 24/7. Nobody cares about Hollywood anymore. So what do Democrats have? You would think they would have legislation. They can't go through legislation because they don't believe in any of the alleged value system that they claim to believe in. Okay, they're buying Teslas again, thank God. Okay, it's like 2 weeks of programming, getting them upset about something, and they forget about it. They don't have a specific value system where they want a specific piece of legislation. So they can't simply say, here's some legislation keeping undocumented individuals who committed crimes in the country. They can reform or amend or erase existing laws that Trump is enforcing. They don't want to do that. They want to create as much passion and vitriol and animus towards Trump, which they're doing. But the point is they had to go through not only media, but nationwide injunctions. They'd find liberal federal judges to issue a nationwide injunction as opposed to legislation, because they don't want to go through Congress. They're dysfunctional just in terms of their political party. They don't even have functioning primaries, but they don't want to actually pass any legislation, like I said, to keep undocumented individuals who committed crimes, for example. In terms of birthright citizenship, the Supreme Court, when it ultimately rules on that, will likely keep precedent in place. However, we don't know. But check this out.
Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important.
So Democrats, instead of legislation, they went through nationwide injunctions. That's a problem, a big problem for the Democratic Party, and now it's an even greater problem because they can't go through nationwide injunctions. And like I said to you, if you watch this channel, I took a couple days off But endlessly for months and months, I said that the nationwide injunctions are as good as ended. And like I told you, it ended. Anyway, hit subscribe. Be here tonight for the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very, very much. 9 p.m. Eastern.